Poetry Center, bringing poetry to Paterson since 1980 at Passaic County Community College.
I'm very happy to welcome you here to the Distinguished Poets Series at Passaic County Community College. This is always something I really enjoy, presenting the Paterson Poetry Prize Awards reading. And this is something, this book award series for poetry books, and then we have another one for fiction and another one for books by books for young people, was something that I thought of about 25 years ago. And I'm just so happy to see it continuing and to feel as though we have had some of the major poets of the century, of the last century and this century here reading in the series, and also reading as part of the prize winners series. Elizabeth, Elizabeth Alexander, I'm sorry, I'm just out of bed. I've been sick for 10 days. I feel like somebody has buried me and they should just shut the coffin lid. Anyway, Elizabeth Alexander won the first prize, was the first prize winner of this year's Paterson Poetry Prize. And she's not able to be here today. Unfortunately, her husband passed away last week, and suddenly and unexpectedly, and so that she isn't able to be with us. But I certainly want to honor her beautiful book, and to say that how honored we were to be able to give her book the award, which we felt it really deserved. But we also have finalists for this prize who have, I think that what's interesting about this prize is that the work is very different, and you're going to hear lots of very different voices, but I think what all these poets share is a kind of energy and electricity in their work, and it's something that I think is really important to honor in American poetry, because I think that a little bit too much of the surfacey, languagey, polishy, academic-y, MFA-y kind of writing is being honored all over the place, and I really feel that the kind of electricity and energy that makes American poetry so special is not that, and I run a PhD program, so I shouldn't even say this, but is not the kind of MFA, kind of thing that MFA programs too often reward, and that is poetry that's safe, that doesn't take any risks. And I think that what we try to do with these awards is to honor poetry that does take risks and does go to the edge and is willing to tell the truth and is willing to just be out there and belt it out, which I think is what makes American poetry so wonderful. I also need to say that the poetry series and all the programs that we do and the book awards and everything would not be possible without a grant from the New Jersey State Council on the Arts, Department of State, and also without the help of the Passaic County Community College. I'm sorry, obviously I should have stayed in the coffin. But also I want to thank the National Endowment for the Arts, who gave us a new a grant this year, another grant this year for a special program for senior citizens, which has been really successful and wonderful, and I have to mention them as well. I'm going to start the series, this program, with asking Michael Cirelli to read his first collection, Lobster with Old Dirty Bastard, from Hanging Loose Press. I love the title. It was a New York Times bestseller from an independent press and was featured in the debut Poets issue of Poets and Writers magazine. His work has appeared in the Best American Poetry, New York Quarterly, and Texas Review. He's the executive director of one of the nation's largest, youth literary arts organizations, Urban Word, New York City, and has authored 2 poetry curricula, Poetry Jam, Recorded Books 2010, and Hip Hop Poetry and the Classics. His book, Vacations on the Black Star Line, also from Hanging Loose Press, was the winner, was a finalist for this prize. Let's welcome Michael Cirelli.
Thank you, Maria. I'm glad to be back here. I'm going to get right into it. This poem is called Astronomy. If those are stars, and what they make when they pepper the sky, if it is a sky, not a road, is a shape we call spoon, then the sky that is not a road might possibly be soup or yogurt, but we call it a sky. And the spoon of stars has its own name, and in that road of soup is a planet, if it is a planet, and if what we call planet was assigned to color that is feared in America, if this is America, and if fear meant something bad might happen to you, so be on the lookout. And bad had the same color of this planet in America, so the color called bad had to swallow the bad like a black hole, had to make breaks, make tap, scratch 2 records together and fire back. If what fire is something that makes light and heat, so the bad was no longer bad, even when it was used in speech, like when he said, he is one bad mother effer. It was not bad meaning bad, but bad meaning good, like foot, like hair, like skin. Then a skin that looks up to the moon, as full as a record, reflects the light that shines off the sun, that we call the biggest star in the soup, and we see it down here in fear, where the people, if they are people and not spoons, bob their heads to the light that shines from 2 mouths and is black. The light from their mouths is black. Thank you. That's the first poem in this collection, and the book is called Vacations on the Black Star Line. And it started in a number of ways, but for me it started as a way for me to explore primarily racism and white privilege and all the sort of racial politics that happen in that mix as it refers to me, especially because my work, my career is really in many communities of color, so it was important for me to sort of dig into that subject matter, especially because I'm around so many young, brave poets every day. And the platform that I created these poems on was based on an album called Black Star by rappers Mos Def and Talib Kweli. So when I say the light from their mouth is black, I'm kind of referring to these 2 rappers that gave me the prompts. The first section of the book is all titled after songs in their album. So that's the context, and I'll get into it. It's called Twice in a Lifetime. 1. When I consider the Caucasian American. As a kid, I used to hang over the hull of this boat and look straight down, my face full of wind like a flag, and the water looked like the moon. And as we glided across the surface of the moon and Providence sprang up like an extraterrestrial space camp, the deeper and deeper we penetrated Narragansett Bay, I had no fear of getting closer to the edge, wanting to run ashore and greet the aliens with my cap gun. Back then, the only black I knew was the color of the Boston Bruins jersey, and I loved the way Gord Kluzak threw a punch. I've only felt other twice in this lifetime. The details are not relevant, but the moon is. And even on the moon, I still somehow believed I belonged, wearing oblivion on my face like melanin paint on the hull of a spaceship, too. My people. I'm afraid this new intergalactic president of ours absolves my people, who live in West Oakland or Bed-Stuy, like it offered us stripes, like it made us the voyeurs of inequity, like it added to our bios. My cousins live in Providence, where every wannabe thug gangsta Goomba hangs a lynched Jesus from his neck and the wardrobe of African America off his ass. I don't know who's worse off. In Brooklyn, my friends with privilege have the privilege of understanding privilege. We pay off student loans from our adventures in ethnography. We read culturally relevant books from other cultures and swathe our tongues in hip logic, cupboards full of organic beans, So quick to say fuck it when the blame finger is pointed bullseye. 3. Reflection eternal in the manner of a white boy. I put a mirror in front of me and fix one to the wall behind me. Stand in between them and look at my image go on and on and on. I am large. 4. Poem in the manner of a satellite. Moon, your skin is so good. Moon, soft morph silk, moon, spun, hydrogenated oil, moon, so alive, moon, with good skin I envy, sun, overrated star, sun, ego star, my 2020 space goggles see millions of your brothers, engines that mimic God's intestine, Pluto, Mars, Saturn, I was given your names. You Indians away from India, you Colombia, New England, you can't dance no more. We won't allow it. I only read your books in my binaries, my hard tongue, but moon, moon so alive, so soft a print in you is immortalized. Moon, I can't keep my eyes off. 5. Vacations on the Black Star Line. When I vacation on the moon, the drinks are so cheap I can buy a shot for everyone. When I vacation on the moon, I've already learned your curse words, already know how to ask for everything. When I vacation on the moon, I don't want to look like a tourist. I've studied the architecture of ribs. I know the history of each skull step. When I look into the eyes of the aliens, I know the pain they've seen. And I'm going to move to something that's a little bit more pertinent for right now. And as you can see, there's a lot of kind of space age imagery and themes that kind of came up in this. I wrote poems in the manners of refrigerators and robots and all kinds of stuff. But this poem is called Black President. In 1926, the sci-fi novel O Presidente Negro dreamed the year 2228 black. Black as the middle of my eye. In 2263, Bruce Willis flies a cab that zooms across the silver screen and Debo is Prez. In another movie, a rogue comet is hurtling through the cosmos like an errant free throw as we spray our spaceships with synthetic melanin. Look to Morgan Freeman, fresh out of Shawshank, to save us. When destruction is closer than the knife blade on our throats, in a future where we forgot how to walk, only then have we imagined a black president. In 2008, the poster on my wall has a 4-letter word and a black face who is not an athlete, not a rapper. I put black on a pedestal, pray to black 5 times a day. I make black the new white. Today America is the absence of light. We walked into a time machine and pulled down the lever, hoping to hit the black pot. Swallowed November's time capsule, shaped like an O, like an aspirin, and weighted by our televisions that don't project holograms in living rooms that dream of being silicon. It's not the future, but it is. My car doesn't fly, but a black man with pain woven into his moniker belts a robot lullaby through my amplifier. This poem is called Michelle. So I was in D.C. a few years ago, actually, and I was with a group of kids. And so everywhere I go, when I was asking for direction, it's hard to get 15 kids around any city. And so every time I was trying to get somewhere, somebody from D.C. would be like, "Oh, go that way, and when you see the obelisk, take a right, go this way. And if you're going, go away from the obelisk." And everything was like the obelisk was this point of reference. And at the time, I didn't know what an obelisk was. And just like that word kind of slipped my. I was like, obelisk, and I'm trying to picture like, what it was. And I knew it was some kind of geographic shape, but I just pretended that I knew what I was doing. And so I wrote this poem called Michelle. It's about Barack and Michelle's first date. She answered the door in a simple red dress, her hair folded into a tight spool. Barack wanted to grip the polished rung of her collarbone and climb into her mouth, but this was their first date. So they hot-boxed his blue Jetta until the smoke was so thick it could be spread onto shortcake. And he promised her adjectives like interesting and audacious, and he rolled another J, not wanting to come cross no square brother at the firm. And Michelle liked the way his words were pennies flicked into a fountain. And finally they checked out a Spike Lee movie. And after the movie, he fit his hands into hers all the way home, where he sealed his lips to her ear and promised an obelisk for her garden. This poem is called Brown Skin Lady. It's dedicated to my girlfriend, who the book is dedicated to. If you cut someone off from their culture, they will die. My lady can trace her long finger like a terracotta branch through history's rich cemeteries and arrive at the prophet. There is no separation of church and state when your homeland is called the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. Where I'm from, we pretend that God stays out of our taxes and that culture is the alchemy that turns blood white. I am multiple selves, but I am white. I contain multitudes, but am still white. American culture is distinguished by whether you are born of old money, new money, or no money. I can trace my lineage back to my first loan. My family tree grows from a safe. It seems the most dangerous nation in the world has it right. All the ammo we drop over there, and the Muslims are not dead, as I polish off another eggplant parm. At the airport, they study my lady's passport and wonder where she has hidden the bomb. And I want to tell them, she doesn't hide the bomb. She is the bomb. I'm gonna close with this piece, and it kind of is a continuation of a lot of my old work. It's going to be in my new book that's coming out this fall on Hang Loose, and it's all about growing up in a diner. My mom's the waitress and my dad's the cook, and they had me. Dedication. The robots have been disassembled. The gold teeth melted down to a fork. I wrote my uncle into a syringe and hurt his feelings. Inked myself Sonny Corleone, and that wasn't exactly true. What I paraded across a page sometimes, I should have left to them. When I held her bifocals to 6 sentences, I gave my poor mother agita. When I sung my critical race theory, they all thought I wanted to be black. Many times I'd pick the thread on the wooden buttons that kept another secret snug and spread them across a stanza like fondant. I'm sorry. I'm different now. I know it's hard to believe when I show up covered in margarine with tofu shoes on my feet, threatening to flop into the East River from the Williamsburg Flea, but it's true. Mom, I know you want me to keep you out of my poems, but people need to know that you remember them by how they like their eggs. That when I asked about the certificates framed on the wall of our small family restaurant, you told me, while refilling my coffee, that the mayor sent it for 30 years of doing this. Thank you.
Winner is D Earhart, and he has a PhD from the University of Wales at Swansea. He's the recipient of the President's Medal from Veterans for Peace, a Pew Fellowship in the Arts, 2 Pennsylvania Council on the Arts Fellowships, a Mary Roberts Reinhardt Foundation grant, and an Excellence in the Arts Award for the Vietnam Veterans of America. The author and editor of 19 books of poetry and prose, he lives in Philadelphia and teaches at the Haverford School. His book that was a finalist is The Bodies Beneath the Table, published by Adastra Press, East Hampton, Massachusetts, D Earhart.
I got one email that said I should be prepared to read for 15 minutes. And I got another one that said read for 10 minutes. So I didn't know what to do. Then I remembered my old adage, it's always better to leave an audience screaming for more than to give them more than they want. So I'm going to do 3 fairly short poems. By the way, that PhD and all that stuff, believe me, I walk into the classroom every day and I'm just the guy that gives them homework. All about death. You don't want me to tell you about death, but I'm going to tell you anyway. It smells bad. It gets into your nostrils and just sits there, stinking up everything. It won't go away. Death creeps up on you when you're least expecting it, even when you can see it coming a mile away, and rips your heart out through your throat and leaves an empty place in your life you can't fill with memories or exercise or wads of sterile gauze, and walks away laughing. Or maybe just slips out under the door and floats away like mist dissipating before sunlight on an autumn morning. Death minds its own business, and everyone else's too. Death does a little jig, then lobs a grenade into your kitchen. But it's only a dud. What a joker, you think, just before it explodes. Death feels sorry for nothing and no one. Death feels nothing at all. Death drives an SUV with a husband and 2 kids in Gladwin, loses control, crosses the median, plows head-on into everyone sooner or later, takes out a mortgage and then skips town without paying a penny back. Death takes a holiday, but not today. Not tomorrow either. Maybe next week, but I wouldn't hold my breath. My mother-in-law died 25 years ago, but my wife still cries out in her sleep for her mommy. Sometimes my wife isn't even asleep. Now here's another thing I've learned about, actually, one about audiences and the other about me. If you applaud a little for that one and then you don't applaud for the next one, I'm going to think, God, they didn't like that one. What do they think of the next one? So why don't you just save it up till I'm done, and that way you can applaud because you liked it, or you can applaud because I'm done. That way we all win. This is called Golfing with My Father. My father took up golf in middle age. The dumbest game I ever tried to play. But it was 1969, and I was at a loss to figure out a way to bridge the gaping generation gap that lay between us like an open wound. The ex-Marine just back from Vietnam and telling anyone who'd listened what a crock of shit the myth of manhood was. The minister who'd spent his life convinced his cousin Bob had died in Germany because my dad had never been to war. Not a lot of common ground between us in those bad old days of Richard Nixon, Jimi Hendrix, burning bras, and LSD. So the afternoon my dad invited me to play around, I figured, what the heck, it can't be all that hard to hit a ball that isn't moving. And it's something he and I could do together. Which it was, or wasn't. More exactly, it was something he could do, while I could only hack my way from hole to hole like some demented backhoe operator digging random trenches by the dozen, 10 and 15 yards apart from here to kingdom come. Dad tried to coach me, but he might as well have tried to teach a mackerel how to dance. Before we reached the 7th hole, with what few shreds of sanity I still had left, I realized I'd better quit before I killed someone. My dad, or me, or maybe the son of a bitch a hole behind us, laughing every time another chunk of God's green acres sails farther than the ball. Next time my dad suggested golf, we went for lunch to Megan Bill's instead. They served a wicked cheesesteak sandwich, and we ate in silence, elbows on the countertop, shoulders hunched, our fingers dripping grease. And I'll finish. Weren't you listening? It's the teacher. It's the teacher in me. And I'll finish with this one. I even wore my shirt that says winter track on it. I coach winter track at Hereford. And this is called Coaching Winter Track in Time of War. The boys are running suicides on the football field today. 10-yard increments out to the 50 and back again. Push-ups in between. It's 30 degrees, but they sweat like it's summer in Baghdad, curse like soldiers, swear to God they'll see you burn in hell. You could fall in love with boys like these, so earnest, so eager, so ready to do whatever you ask, so full of themselves and the world. How do you tell them it's not that simple? How do you tell them? Question it all. Question everything. Even a coach. Even a president. How do you tell them? Ask the young dead soldiers coming home each night in aluminum boxes none of us is allowed to see. An army of shades. You tell the boys good work and call it a day. Stand alone in fading light while memory's phantoms circle the track like weary athletes running a race without a finish line.